Okay, welcome to another vintage reel service and repair video. In this episode we have an Ocean City X10, which I know almost nothing about. Ocean City obviously was a very well respected manufacturer back in the day up until the late 50s, and it continued on probably under another corporation like True Temper or something like that. This one is I guess you'd call it an entry-level reel. It's plastic body, plastic foot, looks like aluminum cover on it, and it's made in Korea. And so I don't know the exact date. I'm guessing mid 1970s. Maybe up into the 80s, but I just don't know. There's not a lot of hits on this. When you do a search online, I think I saw one or maybe two that were part of auctions and that kind of thing, but just not a lot of information about it. But at any rate, we'll go through and take it apart and service it and see if there's anything wrong with it, and have some fun with it. Okay, so we'll start by taking off the front cover, which is just a counterclockwise twist, and then it pulls off. So there's two tabs that go in these notches, and this twists on. And work on getting this nut off of here. Looks like a little bit of dirt and lake scum in the cover. And take off the spinner head nut. There is a washer. It's not a locking washer, and it's not keyed. And there you can see the spinner head has a line pickup pin, and already I notice either somebody used this hard and often and really torqued on it when they got snagged, but there's quite a cut there in the spinner head, so that's going to have to be filed off. And you can also see, I think right there, you can see a cut in the line pickup pin. Sometimes you can just kind of spin those around depending on how well that moves in the nylon block that it's in, and other times you're just going to have to grind them down. So now the question is there a, yeah, I think this is gonna, sometimes these have little tabs on the bottom and you twist and pull, but actually, yeah, the question was sometimes they have a built-in spool and other times not, but I'm just trying to make sure that I'm not forcing something, but it looks like that should come off of that shaft there. It almost feels like it's supposed to twist in one direction and then pop off, but you hate to force these things, especially when they're plastic like this. And I don't know anything about it or have any information on it, so you just have to, it's definitely spinning on that shaft, but it only wants to spin a certain way, which tells me there's probably a slot with a large hole at one end, and so you have to turn it one way or the other. But if it's kind of stuck on there, you don't know which direction you need to have it in order to start maybe gently trying to pry it off. Yeah, maybe there's some clues on the inside if we open up the side plate. Maybe we should try that first and revisit that spool. Every time I think a reel is so simple, that's going to be so easy and quick, and I can just churn one of these out quick, I find some kind of an issue. So there's the inside. Grease is still relatively soft. It's got an anti-reverse, and looks like you might be able to pop out the pin here. Yep, to get the push button out. And there is room to get the axle shaft out without having to take the spring off, which is a good thing because this one is sort of a tapered spring, so it would no E-clip. That would be kind of hard to get off without mangling the spring. And then we can take off the handle so that we can get the main gear out. And there's a washer behind the nut there. It's not a locking washer. And the handle is keyed, so there's a flat side, two flat sides, and then our star drag adjuster. And then noting that, as is usual, the concave side of this tension washer faces outward. So the convex side goes towards the body, the concave side goes out. And then that'll allow us to pull out the main gear. And okay, so there's sort of a bushing that's part of the anti-reverse cog. And then you've got a sort of a fiber washer. And then you've got the main gear. And then there's another fiber washer underneath those tabs in the main gear. So we can put that in the parts tray. The anti-reverse pawl is pressed in. So that doesn't really need to come out. That's no problem. We can easily clean underneath and around that and re-lubricate. And so yes, now we can see. Here are, that's just what I thought. So there's sort of a slot there, and on let's see if I can turn this thing. On one end of the slot there's a large hole, and so you have to turn it. Let's see, you would be turning it clockwise to line up those pegs into the large holes so that the thing can come off. But looks like this peg's almost a little bit bent here. It's not really lining up with that hole very well, but you got to get those pegs lined up. Maybe do a little pushing from the back side to get the spool off. There she comes. There, just like that. So they go, those fat part of the peg goes into the fat part of the notch there, and then to lock it in, if you hold the reel like this, you'll be making a counterclockwise turn. To unlock it, you're making a clockwise turn. So that allows us to get in there and grease that shaft and clean out all this dirt that's in there and so on. So boy, that's pretty quick. So all the parts have been disassembled, ready to take that to the sink and do some scrubbing, do some lubricating, repair the line cuts in the spinner head and on the pickup pin, and put her back together, and she'll be ready to go fishing again. So there's all your parts, and we'll be back in a snap. And just like that, all the real parts are cleaned up. And it dawned on me that sometimes somebody's watching one of my videos for the first time, and it probably would be prudent to indicate that when I go and what I'm doing when I go and wash these, basically hot water to help soften the grease, and dish soap to help dissolve the grease, and occasionally WD-40, and of course getting down with the WD-40 into the journals with a cotton swab to make sure there's no grease in there that would affect the smoothness of operation. First thing I'm going to get to before reassembly is fixing the cut in this spinner head. It's somewhat deep, and I'm going to save myself some time by touching it with a Dremel tool. This filing can take a lot more time. Even with this Dremel tool, it's not coming off in one stroke, that's for sure. Okay, so that gets rid of the cut in the spinner head, and now the serious cut that's in that pickup pin. I think what I'm going to try first is spinning that around to the other side. We'll see what happens here. Okay, so that worked. I was able to spin that inside its nylon block there and get that cut to the other side, so I don't have to monkey with trying to file that little thing. It's out of the way now. It's not going to impact the line. I just spun that thing around. Okay, so now looks like we're ready to start reassembling and lubrication, etc. So one thing to point out on this main gear assembly is that inside, the first thing that goes down inside the main gear is a washer. It's got it's a square holed washer, and then this particular fiber drag washer has notches in it that correspond with the little tabs on that main gear. And then of course, let's see, let's find this. Then this goes on there, the main gear shaft, and that has a square sort of key there at the head of it that engages that square washer. And then the second fiber washer goes in like that, and then this goes on there, and again that keys into the shaft as well so it doesn't spin on there. And both of these could use probably a little bit of steel wool just to make sure they're all shined up, no residual grease on them. And of course the main the pinion gear shaft or axillary shaft. And we can examine the teeth on that and see that there are no broken teeth. There are no broken or damaged teeth on the main gear. So now we're ready to add some oil to the main gear shaft and insert that in that bushing there. And I guess I'll go ahead and grease. Actually, I definitely want to grease the cogs here for the anti-reverse to hopefully quiet that thing down. And then a little around this here bushing. And then we can, something has fallen out. That anti-reverse gear has fallen out. I thought that would have been pressed in. I'm going to have to go back to the sink and look for that. One good reason to keep the strainer in the sink when you're working on cleaning up reels so you don't lose anything down the drain. Now I gotta figure out, let's see, I guess that only can go in one way, so we don't have to worry about which tooth goes where. Now we can put in our main gear assembly. And the anti-reverse is working. So we can go ahead and put our handle back on. Sometimes I like to bend these out because I think they get sprung. So I don't know if it's right or not, but that's what I sometimes do. I just add a little bit more convexity or concavity, whatever you want to call it, to those tension washers. And then we add our star drag adjuster. And there's kind of a flat side and a rounded side. The pretty rounded side faces out. And there's the washer, and then our nut. Just a little bit of, I don't know if that's grease or boat rash on there. Mostly grease I didn't get, or dirt. Okay, now we're going to get a little oil. You know, that thing slides up, so you can oil this, and that'll help when that moves, but you want to also get some oil down where that pinion gear rests, otherwise it wouldn't get any, or grease. Oil or grease. I usually oil it, but whatever. And then oil here. And then we can slip that back in there. And we can put a little bit of grease where that button makes contact with the axillary shaft, and we can now grease the main gear and the pinion gear. And install the, well, let's see, let's go ahead and put a little oil, get this wiped off, put a little bit of oil on that little peg that holds the button, and that'll not only oil the hole in the button but That's the main thing, but also oil the slot that goes into so that it'll come out easy next time, hopefully. Get in there. Okay, so the button is working now. Now we're ready for the side plate, which has a couple tabs here. So you kind of feed those in first and then lay it down. And put the, there's only one side plate screw because of those tabs. And now we're ready for our spool. So line up the pegs with the fat holes in the channels or slits there. And what's going on there? There, turn that counterclockwise. And now we're ready for our spinner head, which has been refurbished with regard to the line cuts. Put a little oil in there and move that around. And that's a D-shaped shaft and a D-shaped hole, so we just line up those flat sides. We got a little washer and we've got a nut. And get our socket, tighten that down. Check and make sure everything's working. So now we're ready for the cap. See if there's a prettier side to face upward. Doesn't look like much difference on this one. A little bit of scratching and scarring here and there. Wipe her down. And there you have it. A circa, I'm guessing on this, maybe in 1974, 75, somewhere in there, maybe. Maybe it's not that old, but that would be sort of my guess. Ocean City X10 entry-level plastic, not particularly fancy Spincast reel, but it'll catch fish. I always have to chuckle when I see some of the videos where somebody has a video about a vintage rod and reel, and the title is, "Will it catch fish?" Well, of course it'll catch fish. Question is, will the fisherman catch any fish? Alright, thanks for watching.